You want to come in here?
All right,
Here.
all right, we're live.
Okay, welcome. Welcome to the Senate Democratic Caucus, which will be every Tuesday at 12:15. I'm Allison Clarkson. I'm the Majority Leader of the Senate, and it is a great pleasure to welcome you to our weekly meeting. I think this week we're going to have a fairly simple agenda. We'll begin with the pro tem updating us on both some of our priorities and some of the things that have that we need to be updated on, that we need to know about. And then I'll give an update on some caucus issues. And then we're going to move to the committee chairs and have just a brief update on some of the issues that are most pressing in their committees, some of their priorities. And then my guess is we'll be done. So I think on that note, I will send it down to Senator Baruch.
Is it all right here, Allison? Or should I move up there?
Dick, can you see him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Just for people to know, the camera is right there.
So welcome, everybody. This is our first Tuesday caucus. We have these pretty much every week. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lull where we don't need one. Sometimes we feel like we need more than one and we schedule an extra one. But I just wanted to start out with what we're really doing when we sit down with this. My first biennium, I was on agriculture with Senator Starr, and he taught me two lessons that I've never forgotten. The first was always keep your word. It's your only currency in the building. And if you can't keep your word, number two, never surprise people. So these caucuses are in the category of never surprise people. So as things move out of committee and they're headed toward the floor, they come through the caucus process, and the majority leader helps to educate all of us on what's coming out of committee. Because as you can already see, there are 100 things going at any one time. You can only watch a few of them. So you're really looking to the committee chair to warn you if there are hot button issues coming up, if there are red flags. Sometimes there are email campaigns that pop up on your screen. You get explanations in the caucus about the external circumstances for some of these bills. So there's that. The other thing I want to just quickly mention by way of introduction is we're back in the lounge. So this lounge was off limits during the pandemic. This is our first real experience back with it. It's meant to be a common space, a social space, a workspace. So you'll see if you hang around in the building after 4 o'clock, there are people who tend to gravitate to the lounge to get some work done. Those turn into informal work groups, like informal caucuses in a way. So all of that is underway. I'm really glad about that. In terms of priorities, the only thing that I want to highlight today is the affordable heat bill, which Senator Bray has already got to work on in Natural Resources and Energy. He's going to be giving us an update on that next caucus, next Tuesday. But in terms of our overall priorities, that's the first one to move bill form into committee. We'll get an update next week. That'll continue as things drop into committee and begin to get hearings. These caucuses are meant to give you a sense not only of what's coming toward the floor, but of our priorities as a caucus. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Allison. The majority leader runs these meetings, and it's her agenda, and she just calls on me when she wants to.
We want you all the time. So to that end, our agenda is set. We tend to set our agenda Thursday, Friday. So if you have an item that you would like on the agenda here in these Tuesday caucuses, please let me know. And I've been reaching out because our next caucus next Tuesday will be beginning with the affordable heating standard, and my guess is we'll have room for one other major issue bill. And I know that Jenny has put her hand up for childcare. So if others of you have things that you know are pressing that you're going to be dealing with, so bring it on. Welcome. It is wonderful to have you all. Anyone who ordered a name tag, Sally has brought the name tags, and I'm going to try being a good newbie and wearing mine and change my habit of my Senate habit, which is not true. You may have noticed there are a lot of other caucuses, and Ashley and I are going to be pulling together we hope, complete list of all the ad hoc caucuses that Phil talked about earlier that meet in this building and are special interest caucuses. But to name just a few, particularly for our new members, first of all, I'd like to say it's thrilling to have 7 new members of this caucus. We have Senator Vyhovsky, we have Senator Harrison, Hashim, Watson, White, Renner, and who am I missing? And Mueller. So we are really lucky to have such a wealth of experience and expertise joining our caucus. We're just delighted. And they have the opportunity to participate in some of these caucuses. The Climate Solutions Caucus, you know about, the Women's Caucus, Social Equity Caucus, Workers Caucus, Rural Economic Development Caucus, National Guard Caucus, Rainbow Caucus, Futures Caucus, and every county tends to have their own caucus meetings once a month. So for new members, there's a lot going on, and it's actually hard, particularly for those of us in the Senate, to be able to be present because lunchtime is a time that we're all pressed to have additional meetings and actually eat lunch. We are, as you know, losing our fabulous Senate Democratic Caucus Director, Sally Short, and we have been advertising and promoting it. If you need the job description again, we're going to begin interviewing Andy, and Andy and I will begin interviewing next week. If you have other candidates, please let me know. This is our partner on getting our Senate work done, and Sally has been just splendid in helping all of us in a variety of different ways, whether it's our town meetings that we can do as senators in our districts, or helping us with the newsletter, getting our weekly committee updates published, which we're going to begin next week. And so please help us find a splendid new caucus director. And to that end, I'd like to just let everybody know we have on Thursday, January 26th, we have our first Celebrating Senate Democrats fundraiser at Bar Hill at Caledonia Spirits from 5:30 to 7:30. We hope to all be there. More information will follow. I think the invitation's going out tonight. So look for it in your inbox. And I think, is there anything else I'm missing? Somebody help me. Anything? Okay. I think, great. Jenny.
I shouldn't have taken a bite. No, I just wanted to say thank you to Sally, and I thought if we could just give Sally a round of applause. Thank you.
Sally has been really set a new standard for being the director, and this is not her last meeting happily. More to follow on that front. So we'll keep you all attuned. And I think, though, we are now ready to go to agriculture. So we're going to do quick committee updates. We don't have a lot of time, but high level, what do you see are the pressing priorities in your committee? What are you moving first? And anything else you'd like to add? So we'll have like 3 minutes each, 3 or 4 minutes. How do you start?
Well, thank you, Allison, and I want to welcome the new members here to our caucus. Actually, it's the biggest crowd of new members that I've ever witnessed. So you deserve being congratulated for the hard work you did last fall. So in regards to agriculture, we do a lot of different things, and one of the big issues is trying to help our small ag producers all over the state grow veggies and fruits and vegetables. And what we need to do is try to figure out a way to make it easier for these folks to bring those veggies to a food hub and then have it distributed out to some of our Vermont stores and to our Vermont schools to supply them with fresh, wholesome, Vermont-grown products. So that's going to be an issue that we're going to spend time on. We're going to spend time this week reviewing programs that we do have set up at the Ag Agency and how they've been working, not working, what we might need to do to fix, if they aren't working well, fix those issues. The ecosystems, building better soils on our farms to retain the water and the phosphorus in there, and trying to get not to retain the phosphorus, but retain it from running in the brooks. And trying to, we have a program called Pay for Performance. And so all the different soil tests that farmers do will be entered into a computer. Then this fall or next spring, take samples again to see how much phosphorus they've actually reduced. And so it's a pay for performance type system. But the dairy industry has done pretty well financially this last year. Pay price for milk hasn't been bad. The only thing that's caused grief there is that the cost of everything they buy has gone up. But you know, our farmers are getting smarter and better. This one farmer was telling me that he was able to reduce his commercial, took 3 years, but he was able to reduce his commercial fertilizer bill in half by broadcasting an injection of manure into the soils. And those are all programs that we put together over the years. So there's some good things happening in that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dick, would you like to go next?
I would.
Out of order, we're doing it beginning A, but we're gonna go with Dick. And when you stand up, just stand up in your place and speak because the camera is there. And if you speak loudly, the microphone will pick you up.
Yeah, Judiciary is starting out with 3 new members of the committee, and it's exciting to change. We miss our old members, but we're still trying to find out who's going to take over Alice's vault. But we are, I think our focus, at least in the beginning, will be on bills that have to do with violence and the prevalence of violence with firearms and other issues in our communities that we've all seen upticks in. We have a number of bills coming. Senator Lyons and I have been working on one that deals with emergency rooms. I don't know how many of you have heard from your emergency room about problems that they're having, but I certainly have. Spent about an hour with the emergency room staff at the Southwest Vermont Medical Center. The other issue is to continue our work on justice reinvestment, which has been a major prison reform. If folks want to look at the reductions in out-of-state population, if you remember those of you who were around in 2010 may remember that we were one of the fastest growing prison populations in the nation. We had 750 people out of state. We're down to about 125 right now. And that's tremendous progress. We're going to try to figure out how much of that is due to COVID and when we see the backlog in the court system, how much that might have to do. But we've got a number of bills that are still left as part of justice reinvestment, including the racial disparities data collection bill, as well as a presumptive probation bill, which basically would mean unless you have a good reason not to put somebody who commits a nonviolent offense in jail, then you shouldn't. And you would need to have that within the interest of justice. We'll be working on that bill fairly shortly. So there are a number of bills that members of the committee have introduced that we intend to take up. There will be some firearm bills that I'm sure we'll take up. No matter how controversial they are, they deserve a hearing. And I haven't seen them all yet, obviously. Just saw one that came in today. So that's, we're starting out looking at the backlog in the court system is another really a huge problem. One of our members of our committee has to miss a day because when he was a trooper back in 2018, the case is just coming up. So he has to go testify on a 2018 case. I don't know about you, but I don't remember much.
2016.
I'm sorry, I gave them 2 extra years. I mean, it's just, that's how far backed up they are on criminal cases, and we need to do whatever we can to help them get rid of that backlog. So there are a number of ideas, and that's where we're starting from. And I'm excited about the new session and the work we hope to do in Senate Judiciary.
Great. Thank you, Dick. I think we'll go to Senator Kitchell with appropriations.
Thank you. We're starting out the week kind of getting refresher. In Vermont, actually, we only have one budget bill. So all of state spending is in our state budget. Some states kind of split it up. So when we build a budget, we're using a lot of assumptions or estimates, projections, and we're going to be starting a budget adjustment for this current fiscal year because we know that we have certain areas where spending is higher than we had budgeted. Medicaid is one example, Reach Up is another, and there's a range. So we're going to start taking testimony on Thursday on the budget adjustment. If you've got any questions, we have 2 members this year. Andy's vice chair, and I don't know if he can continue that tradition of teeny tiny notes, but we'll see. And then Ginny Lyons. And so a lot of the budget and most probably controversial areas usually get into human services. So that'll be a nice addition as well. So budget adjustment is really it. But we're also getting an update because we're not as good as we might be when we budget stuff and how are things going. So we're going to be getting an update on home and community-based services for our seniors and people with disabilities. We're getting an update on pensions, which is a major overhaul last year, and we put together a whole different financing package. And the other part, we're going to be trying to pair up with some other afternoon committees to spare duplication of testimony. So Senator Cummings and I are going to do 2, right? And maybe on the pensions update with GovOps. So even though you might say, what are appropriations doing if you're on other committees, you might find that we're trying to combine and make sure that we can not have one witness have to go, 2 or 3 or 4 different places by the time they get done. So that's where we are, and you can look at the agenda and see. Then we're going to talk about the mechanics and time frame and crossover, because was asking about that. And our 2 money committees have a week after the other committees, simply because most of what happens if it carries an appropriation or it requires a revenue source have got to come to our committees first. So sometimes that can mean we're moving out 8 bills in an afternoon simply because. So I would encourage other chairs to, if you can move bills out so they just don't all end up in that final week, it kind of helps, but we move pretty quickly. So budget adjustments, the main thing, plus some refresher. And we're getting a lot of reports in, and I made a plea and I ask all the other chairs, look at what we're asking for reports. Think about the time it takes to put together, the obligations of resources, and are we really using them? And because it is an expenditure, may not be in the form of a dollar, but it's really obligating staff time, usually on the executive branch, but also within the legislative resources. So we'll be looking at that whole issue around what do we have for committees? What do we have for reports? How are they being used? And are we really getting utility, or perhaps they should be discontinued? So I'd ask everybody to kind of keep an eye, because it's so easy to say, oh, well, let's have a study committee, or let's ask for reports. But that is, it's sort of like a tax expenditure.
Yeah.
It's an expenditure of resources. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. Funnily enough, economic development is next. Speaking of your time frame,
Yes, speaking of your time frame.
so if you could divide yourself
I
so
shall.
people can see you both places and hear you. Great.
The speakers there. Oh, okay. The microphone.
You good?
Okay, you're perfect.
I hope we can close the budget by May 10th. I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm committed to helping Senator Kitchen with that. First of all, it's a privilege to be the new chair of Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. We have returners in Senator Clarkson and Senator Brock, who are very recent, and we have a returner in Senator Cummings, who's coming back after a decade or more, perhaps. I would be more specific. And we have Senator Harrison, making sure we don't skip a beat with Southern Vermont. And every committee is a great committee, but I think we're really ready to fire on all cylinders, and we need to do that. There are 24,000 open jobs in the state of Vermont. And if you think about the 7,000 people on unemployment and the 5,000 people in the immediate education pipeline, even if we put every single person to work, we would only be halfway to filling all of the open jobs that we have available. These are innovative jobs in places like Beta and OnLogic. These are really critical jobs in our healthcare systems. We won't be able to advance mental health if we don't have a workforce. We won't be able to advance our climate goals if we don't have a workforce insulating homes, weatherizing homes, fixing our transportation system. So we need that workforce, and I am sure you are hearing the same thing that I am hearing as you talk to your constituents, which is housing and childcare. And thankfully we have Senator Lyons and Senator Hardy focused diligently on childcare. We will try to help build the case from the business perspective and the economic perspective as to why that's so important, and do our part on housing. So when I think about all of the moving pieces of housing, we are going to try to put a lot of them into one bill, and to Senator Kitchell's call to action to move that bill well before crossover. It's a huge subject. It's likely to be a bill that gets sent to 4 different committees at the very least in the House. So we're going to try to give others of you the opportunity to weigh in as well on these critical pieces. Permit reform, obviously, we want natural resources and energy to have the ability to weigh in. We have some funding requests, and we know we're going to get more from the governor in his budget address specific to housing. We know that getting affordable housing in the state still feels like winning the lottery. That's about 15% of those who are able to get housing who aren't single family homeowners. And the other 85% are private landlords, and folks that we have to work with and partner with to make sure that we fix our housing stock, that more housing is available, and that tenants have the rights and responsibilities that come with tenancy. We need to take a look at homelessness and a lot of the public safety issues that go along with that as well. So that's supportive housing. That's a lot of what we're doing on the housing front. I hope then we are able to turn our attention to a range of workforce issues, and to make sure we include in that thinking about what our labor community needs, and what it means to have a good job with protections and rights. My predecessor, Senator Sorokin, used to talk a lot about grand bargains. We've had recessions where the business community got something and the labor community got something. Two of the major steps forward we tried to take for our workers, we've been thwarted. Trying to get them a little more money for dependents or for across the board benefits in unemployment, and a COVID relief fund specific to all of the folks you've talked to who keep having to miss work because they get sick or their kids get sick and that COVID cycles through their household. We wanted to get some financial relief to those folks. That still is not online yet. So our workers have been waiting a long, long time for some relief and some support in a really tough economy for them and their families as well. If we can get through all that, I know Senator Sears is somewhere. We still are the vice committee. That's the general part of what we do. And, we have constantly looked at our continually growing spirits, beer and wine industries. We are looking again at sports betting, which we know is very important to the senator from Bennington. And we have a huge task force around that. And also Senator Sears has been thoughtful in helping us transition cannabis from a regulated substance to a market in the state. You probably now all have a lot of cannabis retail outlets in your area, and we want to make sure that they can grow while also protecting our communities.
Great. Thank you very much. Will we sleep? Next to education, Senator Campion.
Thanks, Allison. Great to be here. Great to have 4 new committee members on education. We have Senator Gulick, Senator Hashim, Senator Williams, and Senator Weeks. Thank you. All of them, I think, are going to just be great. We're going to miss Senator Perchlik, Senator Lyons, and Senator Chittenden may be coming back, as I understand. If things don't go well in my hands, may come back to us. So what we ended up spending some time on Friday afternoon, really starting to dig into what's happening in our schools. This is COVID relief. What are teachers seeing? What are principals seeing? What are superintendents seeing? So I would expect in the next couple of weeks, working with our friends in appropriations and with the Pro Tem's office, looking at a COVID relief bill. What is it that our students need at this time? What do our teachers need at this time as it relates to a range of things, whether it's finding people to take care of staff, mental health supports, academic supports, all of those kinds of things. The other thing we're going to spend the next couple of weeks looking at is trying to get a baseline of what is it like to be educated in Vermont. We all talk about, this is a great state. This is a great state to experience education. What does it really look like? We're going to take a look at test scores. We're going to take a look at talk to students. We're going to talk to teachers, principals. What does that experience really look like? Can we come up with something we could really start to measure some of our successes and failures going forward? Equity was also talked a lot about in committee. As some know, there are schools that offer a range of different opportunities for students, and generally our rural communities don't. Our rural or small rural schools don't. How can we sort of take a look at Vermont standards and say, hey, everybody needs to be able to experience this, be able to take courses in that kind of thing. Senators may recall we made a big investment 2 years ago in literacy. So we're hearing from where those dollars are, how are they being distributed, are they making a difference, what's being seen on the ground. We had roughly 50% of Vermonters in 3rd grade weren't reading at grade level. So we made a big investment in that a couple of years ago. And so we want to continue to build on that kind of work. I think the other thing, the final thing I would say is there was quite a bit of talk about our tech centers. We know that there's more interest among not only students, but certainly among workers, employers around our tech centers. How can we do this? Overlaps with certainly agriculture and everybody's committee. How can we keep these to be, nimble, flexible places where students, young people can get trained in something and then transition right into the workforce. So lots of things to work on. That was just a taste of some of the things we talked about on Friday, and I think I'll leave it there for now.
Great, thank you very much. Finance, Senator Cummings.
Thank you. Finance frequently plays mop-up. your bills come to us if they need money, unless it's an appropriation, we need to raise money. And given the price tags that have been attached to some of our appropriations, like childcare and paid family leave, I'm working on the assumption that we're going to do a lot of mop up and figuring out how to pay for them. So we're starting out with, I've got 2 new members, Senator Chittenden and Senator Rahm, and then Senator McCormick is returning to us. So we're doing this week, property tax 101, insurance 101, all of those, because we have a very broad range of pretty technical things. We will be getting a report on, we invested a lot of money in broadband, so we're going to get a report on where are we, what have we done with it. The issue we didn't deal with, we dealt with setting up our CUD system, so we're ready the money to go through them into community-based broadband. But we never dealt with, and if it costs $100 a month, and you're dealing with food anxiety, how do we make sure that your kids can go to school on Zoom and you can do business on Zoom when you're sick, and the whole affordability issue. So we'll be doing that. We're going to take, I've told the House who has sent us a cloud tax, that if you buy it in a box or download it, you pay a sales tax on it. If you use TurboTax, is the big one, online, you don't pay any sales tax because you don't actually put it on your computer. They have sent us that bill twice, and it's always come late. Never really had time to do a deep dive. So I think we're kind of anticipating it'll be quiet at the beginning of this year. We'll get all the routine housekeeping bills out of the way. And then when the big bills come that need money, we will be somewhat prepared to, see what options we do have out there. Also know I'm sure one of you is going to send us a bill looking at the non-residential homestead property and dividing that up between business and basically second homes. And I'm pretty I know there's a lot of concern in the communities about what this recent spike in housing prices has done to the CLA, and that's going to impact their property tax rates and appraisals, and what you may find is a lot of people whose houses suddenly, like mine, seem to be going up hundreds of thousands of dollars in value, which puts you over the edge of income sensitivity, but your income has gone down or not gone up, so we're going to have to make sure that balance is maintained while we work it through.
Thank you. Thank you. And then, of course, you have the pleasure of figuring out how we pay for our priorities like childcare and paid family leave. Do you want to just say anything about the school funding task force, the work? Where is that starting? Because people who are watching may be interested.
Income-based.
Income-based, okay. Income-based education tax, income education tax, IETC. Took us a while to land on that committee. There is a report. We're going to go over that report next week. I'm also anticipating someone will put a bill in. I can say the one thing that report is very clear on is our charge was to say, what would this look like? If we did an income-based tax for education, how would it be structured? And that's what we are presenting. It's got graduated incomes and graduated rates, and it will be based on your town spending, higher or lower than the previous year's average. I think I can say won't be less complicated, or at least as uncomplicated as we'd hoped. The one thing we did do is say, should we do it? Because the big question for me, and I've been clear, is that the income tax is the primary funder for everything Jane funds. And if we take out of that, what's the impact on the general fund and our ability to fund all those other things that we'd like to do or need to do?
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have GovOps. We may not get to everything, but we're going to try. We have 10 minutes. So GovOps is next. Senator Hardy.
Okay, thank you. I will be fast because our committee has not met yet. And so I don't want to get ahead of the committee. And 5 of the 6 members are brand new. Only Senator Clarkson is returning to the committee, so I am completely new and I'm just getting up to speed on a lot of the issues in the committee. But Senator Clarkson, I'm sure, will have a lot to say, and she's the dean of our committee. We also have Senator Vyhovsky, who's coming to us from House GovOps as our vice chair, and then Senator Watson, White, and Norris as rounding out the committee, plus me. So we're talking for the first time this afternoon about our priorities. I do know that we are going to be tackling a few areas, including Senator Sears and I are working on a bill related to oversight of sheriff's departments. This has been an issue in a number of communities in our state, and needing to get a handle on what's going on with our sheriff's departments and how we might make improvements there. We are going to be taking a look again at a scaled down version of a ranked choice voting bill, and just taking a look at how we might be able to dip our toe in that water. So more to come on that. And then we will talk about some professional Office of Professional Regulation issues, as we usually do, and some sort of general government administration issues. And finally, we will be taking a look at a bill related to the legislature and our compensation and support, and how we as legislators are able to do our jobs. We saw significant historic turnover last session. A lot of that was obviously due to the pandemic, retirements, but there was a significant amount of it due to the fact that it is really hard to keep doing this job without the pay and the support that many of us who are balancing family work and legislative jobs need. So we're going to take a look at that issue and see what we might be able to do. Okay. More to come.
Yes, thank you, Senator Hardy. Senator Lyons, Health and Human Services.
Health and welfare.
Health and welfare.
Good job. No, thank you all. We have a great committee, 3 new members. Looking forward to working with each of the members. We have a long list of work ahead of us, a long list of activities, work, and areas in state government. I'm going to mention a few because we will be looking at all of them. We are, of course, coming out of COVID, and as we came out of COVID last year, we began to look back at our hospital sustainable funding. And one of the bills that we passed last year is a very important and significant bill for continuing healthcare reform around hospital sustainability, but also around our community service organizations, such as our designated agencies, the Howard Center, Washington County Mental Health, and others. So the work that we're looking at as a result of passing Act 67 is going to be a very significant step to understanding next steps in healthcare reform. We're working very closely with the Agency of Human Services to look at our all-payer model and the new the new commitment that we're making with CMMS, the federal government. So there's a lot of work just in that area. Beyond that, of course, we know that COVID has exacerbated mental health issues, has exacerbated substance use disorder, and to that end, we'll be looking at our mental health programs. We know that one size does not fit all in this state. In particular, we know our rural areas need a different type of service from our more settled areas. So we'll be looking at mobile crisis response. We'll also be looking at other other parts of our mental health support. We will be looking at the blueprint and trying to expand that into mental health, as well as into other areas of substance use disorder. Last year, we did a lot of work on workforce, and we know that long-term care is devastating right now. For those of you who have parents or a family in long-term care environments, you know how difficult it is. And then put that side by side with the need for transitional housing and people who are homeless at this point don't have a place to go. So there are a lot of expenditures and appropriations embedded in some of the work that we'll be doing, and thank heavens we have a good appropriations committee, particularly our chair, who can help us with this. There are many other things that I would go through. Those are just some of them. You're getting emails about all of them. You know, let me know if you see something that is significant to your constituents, and we'll do what we can do. We're just getting our feet wet. We're laying a baseline in terms of what is out there around health and welfare, what's in the Agency of Human Services, what are the activities going on, what have we done in the past, and how are we going to move forward. So thank you all.
Thank you. And institutions we're not going to do today, but Wendy, we'll hope you'll be on deck for the future. We are going to be doing, we have 5 minutes, so I'm going to go to transportation next, because we're going to be dealing with natural resources next week. And if we have a chance, we'll get to it, but we have 2 core committees, transportation and natural
Very
resources.
brief, transportation will be tomorrow for the first time. As you know, we handle all airplane air service from the state airports. We handle rail, Amtrak is now going to New York City, which is great. In all our highways, last year we had a tremendous budget with the federal infrastructure bill. We spent a couple $100 million more than we normally do. We did 126 million in paving. We continue to do that this year, build our bridges and update our highways. That's what we're looking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was, wow. Like driving 120 on our Autobahn. Senator Bray, natural resources.
Sure, so we have the best of both worlds in Senate Natural Resources and Energy. We have veterans in the form of Senator McCormick and Senator McDowell returning to the committee, and we have new energy in the room with some new minds as Senator Watson and Senator White. So it's going to be a great blend of energy and expertise. There's a lot that comes through that committee, from land use, fish and wildlife, conservation issues. But I'm gonna, because S5, the Affordable Heat Act, was introduced last week, and because there was controversy attached to its predecessor, H715 last year, I just want to say very briefly, in case you received inquiries about this, as I have, that the main Affordable Heat Act focuses very clearly, directly, intentionally on the fact that we have climate requirements in statute that government's required to make, or make its best effort to achieve, and we want to get there in the most affordable way possible. So just very briefly, compared to last year's bill, which was for some members, it was senators, it was vetoed, and we didn't override the veto. But we looked at criticisms of that bill and worked on each of those areas over the summer and fall to address them directly and strengthen them. And I'll keep coming back to this over and over and over again. We need to make a transition away from fuels that are polluting in order to meet our climate requirements. And then the only question, I think that is an unquestionable task in front of us. The question is, how do we do it in the most affordable way? And that's what we are focused on. So we'll be doing tremendous amount of work on doing that to math, to figure out how to set this program up to succeed. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. Wow, you brought us right in on time, I think. Pretty fabulous. Well done. 1 minute to go. So thank you all. Name tags, if you haven't picked them up, Sally has. If you want to order one, we can do that. Thank you very much. And please feel, one of the issues we're gonna be dealing with, that Senator Brewers and I are gonna be working on is trying to keep our caucus meetings here in the building. And that means in the lounge. So feel free to weigh in with us on whether you'd prefer to meet here for lunch in the lounge or whether you'd like to go to the pavilion. So I welcome your input on this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any other